First contact and betrayal. The red Martian dust swirled around Dr. Samantha Chen's feet as she carefully made her way across the planet's rugged terrain. Her heart raced with anticipation, each step bringing her closer to what could be the greatest discovery in human history. Behind her, a team of fellow scientists and engineers from the International Mars Expedition followed, their excitement palpable even through their protective suits. "There it is," Samantha breathed, her voice barely above a whisper as she crested a small rise. Before them, nestled in a shallow crater, lay an object that defied explanation. It was unmistakably artificial, a smooth, obelisk-like structure that gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence under the pale Martian sun. Dr. James Hawthorne, the expedition's lead archaeologist, moved to stand beside Samantha. "My God," he muttered, his voice filled with awe. "It's real. After all these years of searching, we finally found proof of extraterrestrial intelligence." As the team began to set up their equipment around the artifact, Samantha couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of a new era for humanity. Little did she know just how right she was, and how much that new era would test the very limits of human resilience and ingenuity. Back on Earth, news of the discovery spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to formulate responses, religious leaders grappled with the implications for their faiths, and the public's imagination ran wild with possibilities. In the midst of the chaos, a select group of scientists, led by Samantha and James, worked tirelessly to unravel the mysteries of the Martian artifact. Months passed and progress was slow but steady. The team had managed to decipher some of the strange symbols etched into the artifact's surface, which seemed to be a form of mathematical language. But the breakthrough they all hoped for remained elusive, until the day everything changed. It was a quiet afternoon at Mission Control in Houston when the first signs of an approaching spacecraft appeared on their long-range sensors. At first, the technicians thought it must be a glitch in the system, but as multiple confirmations came in from observatories around the world, the truth became undeniable. Humanity was about to make first contact with an alien civilization. The sleek, silver ship that entered Earth's orbit dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed. Its very presence in the sky sent shockwaves through society, as millions looked up in wonder and fear at the tangible proof that we were not alone in the universe. The aliens called themselves the Zirconians, and they came with a message of peace and cooperation. Their ambassador, a tall, ethereal being named Salthor, addressed the United Nations General Assembly in flawless English, explaining that they had detected the activation of the Martian artifact, a beacon left behind by their ancestors millennia ago. "We come as friends," Salthor proclaimed, his multifaceted eyes scanning the assembled world leaders, "to welcome humanity into the galactic community and to offer our knowledge and technology in exchange for your friendship and alliance." The offer was too good to refuse. Over the following weeks, agreements were signed, and cultural exchanges began. The Zirconians shared advancements in medicine that cured diseases long thought incurable. They provided plans for clean energy technology that promised to end humanity's dependence on fossil fuels. And they offered to help upgrade Earth's space program, allowing humans to reach further into the cosmos than ever before. Samantha found herself at the forefront of this new era of cooperation, working closely with Zirconian scientists to study the Martian artifact. She marveled at their advanced understanding of physics and mathematics, often feeling like a child learning to count next to their vast knowledge. But as the months wore on, a nagging doubt began to grow in the back of Samantha's mind. Something about the Zirconians' explanation of the artifact's purpose didn't quite add up. When she tried to press for more details, she found her alien colleagues becoming evasive, almost defensive. James noticed her unease one day as they were reviewing data in their lab. "What's bothering you, Sam?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Samantha hesitated, then decided to confide in her old friend. "I can't shake the feeling that the Zirconians aren't telling us everything about the artifact. Some of the symbols we deciphered, they don't match up with what Salthor told us about its purpose." Gee, Ames frowned, considering her words. That's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof? Not yet, Samantha admitted, but I'm going to keep digging. Something's not right here, James. I can feel it. Little did Samantha know that her suspicions were about to be confirmed in the most devastating way possible. It happened on a crisp autumn morning, just over a year after the Zarkonians' arrival. Samantha was in her office at NASA headquarters when the first reports came in. Massive energy signatures were detected in orbit, far larger than anything the Zarkonians had demonstrated before. Before anyone could react, the sky lit up with blinding flashes of light. Explosions rocked major cities around the globe as Zarkonian weapons rained down from orbit. The very ships that had brought promises of peace now unleashed unimaginable destruction. Samantha watched in horror as live feeds showed the devastation unfolding across the planet. The Zarkonian embassy in Washington, D.C. had been transformed into a fortified command center, with alien troops pouring out to secure key government buildings. In a matter of hours, Earth's defenses lay in ruins. The advanced technology gifted by the Zarkonians had been designed with hidden backdoors, allowing the aliens to disable human military capabilities with terrifying ease. As chaos engulfed the planet, Samantha's mind raced. The artifact on Mars, it had to be the key to understanding why this was happening. She needed to get back there to uncover the truth before it was too late. With communications networks failing and alien ships patrolling the skies, Samantha knew that reaching Mars would be nearly impossible. But as she looked out her window at the smoke rising from the ruins of Houston, she set her jaw with determination. Humanity had been betrayed, but they were far from defeated. Samantha grabbed her laptop, stuffing it into a bag along with whatever supplies she could quickly gather. As she prepared to leave her office, James burst through the door, his face pale with shock. "Sam, thank God you're all right," he gasped, out of breath. "We need to go. Now, I've got a plan, but we don't have much time." Samantha nodded, her expression grim. "Let's go. Whatever your plan is, it's got to be better than staying here and waiting for the Zarkonians to find us." As they rushed through the chaotic halls of NASA, alarms blaring and people running in all directions, Samantha's mind was already racing ahead. The Zarkonians may have betrayed humanity, but they had underestimated the human spirit. This was not the end, it was only the beginning of humanity's greatest challenge. With one last look at the world they had known, now crumbling around them, Samantha and James stepped into the unknown. The future of humanity hung in the balance, and they were determined to fight for it with every ounce of ingenuity and courage they possessed. The Great Exodus. The underground bunker hummed with nervous energy as the last of Earth's leaders gathered around a makeshift command center. Samantha Chen and James Hawthorne stood among them, their expertise on the Martian artifact and Zarkonian technology making them invaluable to humanity's desperate resistance efforts. Admiral Helena Reeves, one of the few high-ranking military officials to survive the initial assault, addressed the somber group. "Ladies and gentlemen, I won't sugarcoat this. We're outgunned, outmaneuvered, and rapidly running out of options, but we're not beaten yet." She nodded to Samantha, who stepped forward, her face haggard from days without sleep, but her eyes burning with determination. "We've managed to decrypt more of the Martian artifact's data," Samantha began. "It's not just a beacon, it's a map. A map to a network of ancient wormholes scattered throughout the galaxy." A murmur of surprise rippled through the assembled leaders. James continued where Samantha left off. "We believe the Zarkonians want to seize control of this network. That's why they attacked us. They saw humanity as a potential rival for this technology." Admiral Reeves raised her hand for silence. "This information gives us an opportunity, but we must act fast. Dr. Chen, Dr. Hawthorne, your team has been working on adapting Zarkonian technology for our own use. What's our status?" James pulled up a holographic display showing a massive spacecraft. "We've managed to retrofit the International Space Station with Zarkonian drive systems and life support technology. It's not pretty, and it's far from perfect, but it can sustain a large population and make the journey to the nearest habitable system. An evacuation, someone whispered, the weight of the idea settling over the room. Admiral Reeves nodded grimly. Exactly. We can't win this war, not yet, but we can ensure humanity's survival. We'll gather as many people as we can, along with the resources and knowledge needed to rebuild. Then we'll use the wormhole network to find a new home. The plan was audacious, borderline insane, but faced with the alternative of slow extinction under Zarkonian rule, it was their only hope. The next weeks were a blur of frantic activity. As the Resistance fought desperate holding actions against Zarkonian forces, a global evacuation effort began in secret. The chosen few, a cross-section of humanity selected for their skills, knowledge, and genetic diversity, was smuggled to hidden launch sites around the world. Samantha found herself working around the clock, coordinating with scientists and engineers to prepare the renamed Exodus I for its unprecedented journey. The ship was a patchwork of human and alien technology, held together as much by desperation as by engineering. As the day of launch approached, Samantha couldn't help but feel the crushing weight of responsibility. They were leaving billions behind, including her own family, who she had been forced to say goodbye to via a hasty, tearful video call. The guilt was almost unbearable, but she knew that this was humanity's only chance for long-term survival. The night before the launch, James found Samantha staring out a viewport at the ravaged Earth below. "Penny for your thoughts," he asked softly. Samantha sighed, her breath fogging the glass. "I can't help but wonder if we're doing the right thing, James. Running away while our world burns." James placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We're not running away, Sam. We're carrying the torch of humanity forward. Someone has to survive to tell our story, and to make the Zarkonians pay for what they've done." Samantha nodded, drawing strength from her friend's words. Tomorrow, they would embark on the greatest journey in human history. The launch was chaos. Zarkonian forces, alerted to the evacuation plan by a last-minute security breach, descended on the launch site in force. As Exodus I rose into the sky on a pillar of flame, the last brave defenders of humanity fought and died to give the ship the time it needed to escape. Samantha watched from the bridge as Earth, the only home humanity had ever known, receded into the distance. Tears streamed down her face, mirrored on the cheeks of everyone around her. But there was no time for extended mourning. They had a long and perilous journey ahead. Using the data from the Martian artifact, Exodus, I limped towards the nearest wormhole in the network. The ship groaned and shuddered, pushed to its limits by technology its human designers barely understood, but somehow, miraculously, it held together. As they approached the wormhole, tension on the bridge reached a fever pitch. This was the moment of truth. Either the ancient alien network would work, or humanity's last hope would be snuffed out in the cold void of space. Initiating wormhole entry sequence, James called out, his fingers dancing over the alien controls. The space in front of Exodus I seemed to ripple and twist, a swirling vortex of energy opening before them. Samantha gripped her console tightly as the ship plunged into the unknown. For a terrifying moment, reality itself seemed to bend and warp around them. Then, with a flash of light and a bone-jarring lurch, they emerged on the other side. A collective gasp went up from the bridge crew. Before them lay a star system unlike anything they had ever seen. Twin suns cast a golden glow over a series of planets, one of which shone a brilliant blue-green, a color that spoke of water and the possibility of life. "My God," Admiral Reeves breathed. "We made it." The following weeks were a flurry of activity as Exodus I approached the promising planet. Scans confirmed their wildest hopes: a habitable world with breathable atmosphere, liquid water, and conditions remarkably similar to Earth. As they entered orbit, Samantha led the first shuttle down to the surface. Stepping out onto alien soil for the first time, she felt a complex mix of emotions: grief for the world they'd left behind, wonder at the beauty of this new planet, and a fierce determination to make this second chance count. "Welcome to New Eden," she said, her voice carried to the anxious colonists waiting on Exodus I, our new home. The work of building a new human civilization began immediately. Drawing on the vast stores of knowledge and resources they brought from Earth, the colonists set about constructing their first settlement. It was back-breaking work, but every member of the expedition threw themselves into it with grim determination. As the weeks turned to months, New Eden began to take shape. Prefabricated habitats sprouted across the landscape, greenhouses were established to grow Earth crops in alien soil, and the first children of this new world were born. But even as they built their new home, Samantha and the other leaders knew they couldn't afford to forget the danger that still lurked among the stars. The Zarkonians were still out there, and sooner or later, they would come looking for the humans who had slipped through their grasp. In a secluded lab on the outskirts of the main settlement, Samantha and James worked tirelessly to unlock more secrets from the Martian artifact's data. They knew that somewhere in its ancient wisdom lay the key to defeating the Zarkonians. They just had to find it before it was too late. One evening, as twin moons rose over New Eden's horizon, Samantha stepped out of the lab to clear her head. As she looked up at the unfamiliar stars, she made a silent vow. Humanity had been knocked down, but they weren't out of the fight. They would rebuild, they would grow stronger, and one day, they would reclaim their place among the stars. The Great Exodus had given humanity a second chance. Now it was up to them to make the most of it. Rise of the Resistance. 5 years had passed since humanity's arrival on New Eden. The fledgling colony had grown from a cluster of prefab shelters to a thriving settlement, its architecture a blend of Earth's past and the promise of a new future. But beneath the surface of this hard-won peace, preparations for war were well underway. In a cavernous underground hangar, Samantha Chen stood before a gleaming spacecraft unlike anything humanity had built before. The ship, christened Phoenix, was the culmination of years of reverse engineering Zarkonian technology and adapting it to human designs. "She's beautiful," James Hawthorne said, coming to stand beside Samantha. His once neatly trimmed beard was now streaked with gray, a testament to the stress of the past years. Samantha nodded, her eyes tracing the sleek lines of the vessel. "And she's just the beginning. The fabricators are already working on the next 5 ships in the series." A voice called out from behind them. "Dr. Chen, Dr. Hawthorne, the council is ready for your briefing." They turned to see Captain Maya Rodriguez, a former fighter pilot who had become one of their most skilled test pilots in the years since the Exodus. Her presence was a reminder of the dual nature of their work, building a new home while preparing for an inevitable confrontation with the Zarkonians. The council chamber was a far cry from the formal meeting rooms of Earth. Carved into the living rock of New Eden, it felt more like a war room than a place of governance. Admiral Rees, now sporting a cybernetic eye to replace the one lost in the evacuation, sat at the head of the table. "Report," she said simply as Samantha, James, and Maya took their seats. Samantha activated a holographic display in the center of the table. "The Phoenix is ready for her first real space trial. If she performs as expected, we'll be able to start mass production within the month." James continued, "We've also made significant progress in deciphering more of the Martian artifact's data. We believe we've located several more wormhole nodes that the Zarkonians might not be aware of." Admiral Rees leaned forward, her cybernetic eye glowing faintly. "And the weapon systems?" Maya answered this time. "The energy weapons are operating at 90% efficiency. They're not quite up to Zarkonian standards, but they're close, and we have a few surprises they won't be expecting." A murmur of approval went around the table. For the first time since the fall of Earth, it felt like they might have a fighting chance. "Good," Reed said, "because we're going to need every advantage we can get. Our long-range sensors have picked up Zarkonian scout ships at the edge of the system. It's only a matter of time before they find us." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. They all knew this day would come, but the reality of it was still sobering. Samantha broke the silence. "We're ready, Admiral. The people of New Eden have been training for this moment for years. Every colonist over the age of 16 has basic combat and survival skills. Our pilots have logged thousands of hours in simulators based on Zarkonian flight data." Reese nodded, a grim smile on her face. "Then it's time we take the fight to them. Captain Rodriguez, you'll lead the first strike team. Your mission is to raid Zarkonian outposts, gather intelligence, and test their defenses." Maya lowered her weapon, her mind reeling. What happens now? The precursor's form shimmered. "Now you both face a choice. Continue this war, and you will destroy not only yourselves, but potentially this entire sector of the galaxy. Or you can choose to work together, to learn from each other, and to join us in exploring the true wonders of the cosmos." A heavy silence fell over the chamber as both humans and Zarkonians grappled with the magnitude of the moment. It was Zarkon who spoke first, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. We have been blind," he said. "In our quest for power, we nearly destroyed everything." He turned to Maya, his alien features unreadable. Perhaps it is time we learned from our enemies." Maya nodded slowly, holstering her weapon. "Not enemies," she said. "Allies." In the days that followed, a tenuous peace was forged. The Zarkonians, humbled by their defeat and the revelations of the precursors, agreed to a cessation of hostilities. Humanity, led by the survivors from New Eden, began the long process of reclaiming and rebuilding Earth. But this was only the beginning. As both species worked to understand the legacy of the precursors, they found themselves standing on the brink of a new era of exploration and discovery. Samantha Chen stood on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt skyline of New Washington, Earth's new capital. James Hawthorne joined her, a datapad in his hand. "The first joint human-Zarkonian expedition is ready to launch," he said. "They'll be using the quantum network to explore beyond the edges of known space. Who knows what they'll find out there?" Samantha smiled, her eyes on the stars just becoming visible in the twilight sky. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Not just as humans, not just as former enemies, but as inheritors of a legacy greater than we ever imagined." As night fell on the renewed Earth, ships lifted off from spaceports around the globe. Some were bound for the colonies on Mars and New Eden, others for the far reaches of the galaxy. Each carried with them the hopes and dreams of two species who had stared into the abyss of extinction and emerged stronger for it. The war was over. The real adventure, humanity's true triumph, was just beginning. As they took their first steps into a larger universe, they carried with them the echoes of their past and the promise of an endless future among the stars. Whatever the outcome of the coming battle, Samantha knew that humanity would face it united, their spirit unbroken. The Zarkonians had underestimated human resilience once before. They were about to learn just how costly that mistake had been. As New Eden's suns set on the eve of battle, the Resistance made their final preparations. In hangars and barracks across the colony, soldiers and pilots readied themselves for the fight of their lives. The future of humanity hung in the balance, and they were determined to seize it with both hands. The rise of the Resistance had begun. Now it was time to see if it would be enough to change the course of the war. The quantum advantage. The vast emptiness of space erupted into chaos as the human and Zarkonian fleets clashed in a dazzling display of advanced weaponry and tactics. Streaks of plasma fire crisscrossed the void, punctuated by the silent explosions of destroyed ships from both sides. Aboard the Phoenix, Captain Maya Rodriguez gritted her teeth as she executed a series of impossible maneuvers, her ship dancing between enemy fire with inhuman precision. "Nexus status report," she barked, her hands a blur over the controls. The A's calm voice filled the bridge, a stark contrast to the frenetic energy of battle. Human fleet holding at 72% capacity. Zarkonian losses at 31% and climbing. However, their numerical superiority remains a significant factor. Maya nodded grimly. They were putting up one hell of a fight, But the Zarkonians still outnumbered them. They needed something to tip the scales decisively in their favor. Back on New Eden, in the heart of the Resistance's command center, Samantha Chen and James Hawthorne worked feverishly. The battle raging above was buying them precious time, but they knew it wouldn't last forever. "James, I think I've got it," Samantha exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "Look at this quantum entanglement pattern. If we can replicate it on a large scale." James leaned in, his brow furrowed in concentration. Then his eyes lit up with understanding. "My God, Sam, you've done it. This could change everything." They rushed to share their discovery with Admiral Reeves and the rest of the command staff. As Samantha explained the breakthrough, a spark of hope ignited in the room. "You're saying we can use this quantum entanglement to communicate instantaneously across any distance?" Reeves asked, her cybernetic eye whirring as she processed the implications. Samantha nodded eagerly. "Not just communicate, Admiral. With Nexus's help, we can use it to coordinate our entire fleet with perfect synchronization. No lag, no chance for the Zarkonians to intercept or jam our signals." "And that's not all," James added. "This same principle could allow us to create a network of quantum-linked sensors. We could detect Zarkonian ships the moment they exit a wormhole anywhere in the galaxy." The room erupted into a flurry of activity as the Resistance leaders rushed to implement this game-changing technology. Nexus avatars shimmered as she interfaced directly with the quantum network, her processing power amplified beyond anything they had seen before. "Uploading quantum entanglement protocols to all Resistance ships," Nexus announced. "Estimated time to full implementation, 3 minutes." Those 3 minutes felt like an eternity as the battle continued to rage. But when the system came online, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Aboard the Phoenix, Maya gasped as her neural interface suddenly exploded with information. She could sense every ship in the human fleet as if they were extensions of her own body. Every maneuver, every weapons discharge was coordinated with millisecond precision. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega," Maya commanded, a fierce grin spreading across her face. As one, the human fleet moved in perfect harmony, their actions so precisely coordinated that it seemed impossible for any enemy to counter. The Zarkonians, caught off guard by the humans' sudden increase in effectiveness, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Ships that had been nearly impossible to hit were now being picked off with terrifying accuracy. On the bridge of the Zarkonian flagship, Supreme Commander Xalthor watched in disbelief as his supposedly invincible armada was being systematically dismantled. "Impossible," he hissed, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "How are they doing this?" But the quantum advantage was only the beginning. Back on New Eden, Samantha and James had made another breakthrough. Using the data from the Martian artifact combined with their new understanding of quantum mechanics, they had managed to crack the encryption on the Zarkonians' most closely guarded technical databases. "Admiral," Samantha called, her voice tight with excitement. "We've got access to their weapon schematics, shield frequencies, everything. We can transmit this data to our fleet right now." Admiral Reeves didn't hesitate. "Do it." As the technical data flooded through the quantum network, the human ships began to adapt in real time. Weapons were recalibrated to exploit weaknesses in Zarkonian shields. Defensive systems were fine-tuned to maximum effectiveness against the alien weaponry. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. Where the humans had been holding their own before, they were now actively pushing the Zarkonians back. Ship after ship fell to the Resistance's newly enhanced weapons, unable to withstand the onslaught. Supreme Commander Xalthor watched in horror as his fleet was decimated. "All ships, fall back," he ordered, his voice laden with disbelief and rage. "Retreat through the wormholes." But even this escape was denied to them. Thanks to the quantum-linked sensor network, the humans were able to predict which wormholes the Zarkonians would use and position their ships accordingly. It was a rout. As the last of the Zarkonian ships were destroyed or captured, a deafening cheer went up throughout the human fleet and back on New Eden. They had done the impossible. They had defeated the supposedly invincible Zarkonian armada. In the aftermath of the battle, as the adrenaline began to fade, the true magnitude of their accomplishment began to sink in. This wasn't just a victory, it was a turning point in the war. Admiral Rees addressed the assembled leaders of the resistance, her face etched with a mixture of exhaustion and fierce pride. Today, we have proven that humanity will not go quietly into the night. We have taken the best technology our enemy had to offer and improved upon it in ways they never imagined possible. She turned to Samantha and James, nodding in acknowledgement of their crucial role. Thanks to the brilliant work of our scientists and the dedication of every member of this resistance, we now have the means to take the fight directly to the Zarkonian homeworld. A murmur of excitement rippled through the room. The idea of taking the war to the enemy, of possibly ending this conflict once and for all, was intoxicating. But Samantha stepped forward, her expression serious. "Admiral, if I may, I believe we need to approach this carefully. Yes, we have the advantage now, but the Zarkonians are still a formidable enemy. More importantly, we need to consider what kind of victory we're aiming for." James nodded in agreement. Samantha's right. We have a chance here not just to win the war, but to reshape the future of interstellar relations. If we simply annihilate the Zarkonians, we're no better than they were when they attacked Earth. Admiral Rees considered their words carefully. After a moment, she nodded. "You're right, both of you. We didn't come all this way, didn't fight this hard, just to become conquerors ourselves. We'll take the fight to their homeworld, but our goal will be to force a surrender, not to destroy them utterly." As the meeting adjourned and plans were set in motion for the final push towards the Zarkonian homeworld, Samantha found herself looking out at the alien sky of New Eden. They had come so far, achieved so much, but the greatest challenge still lay ahead. The quantum advantage had given them the upper hand, but it would take more than advanced technology to truly win this war. It would take wisdom, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to their humanity. As they prepared for the final battle, Samantha silently vowed that they would not lose sight of who they were and what they were fighting for. The end was in sight, but the hardest part of their journey was just beginning. Humanity's triumph. The Zarkonian homeworld loomed large in the viewscreen of the Phoenix, a swirling orb of purple and green that seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. Captain Maya Rodriguez took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. The combined fleet of the human resistance hung in space behind her, a testament to how far they had come since the fall of Earth. "All ships report ready, Captain," her first officer announced, his voice steady despite the tension that filled the bridge. Maya nodded, her eyes never leaving the alien world before them. "Nexus, initiate the quantum shield. Let's make sure they can't pull any surprises." The A's serene voice filled the bridge. Quantum shield activated. All ships are now phase-locked. No Zarkonian vessel will be able to enter or leave the system without our knowledge. On the planet's surface, in the towering spires of the Zarkonian capital, Supreme Leader Zarakon received the news of the human fleet's arrival with a mixture of rage and disbelief. How had these primitive beings, these refugees from a conquered world, managed to bring the fight to the very heart of his empire? "Supreme Leader," one of his advisors chittered nervously, "the humans are broadcasting a message. They're demanding our surrender." Zarkon's multifaceted eyes flashed with fury. "Surrender? To them? Never. Launch every ship we have. We will crush these upstart humans once and for all." But as the Zarkonian defense fleet rose to meet the human armada, it quickly became apparent that the balance of power had shifted dramatically. The human ships moved with impossible precision, their weapons finding weaknesses in Zarkonian defenses that should have been impenetrable. Aboard the Phoenix, Maya watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "Nexus status report." Zarkonian fleet at 60% capacity and falling rapidly. Our losses are minimal. However, I'm detecting a power buildup on the planet's surface. It appears they're charging some kind of superweapon. Maya's eyes narrowed. Can we neutralize it? Negative, Captain. Its energy signature is unlike anything in our database. I cannot predict its effects or how to counter them. Just then, a familiar voice crackled over the comm. Maya, it's Samantha. James and I think we know what that weapon is. Back on New Eden, Samantha Chen and James Hawthorne were poring over data streaming in from the quantum sensor network. It's tied to the Martian artifacts somehow, Samantha explained. I think it's what gave the Zarkonians their technological advantage in the first place. James picked up the thread, but they don't fully understand it. If they fire that weapon, it could tear a hole in the fabric of spacetime itself. They could destroy the entire system, maybe even beyond. Admiral Reeves, listening in on the conversation, made a swift decision. Captain Rodriguez, take a strike team and get down to that planet. We need to stop that weapon from firing at all costs. Understood, Admiral, Maya replied. She turned to her crew. You heard the order. Let's finish this. As Maya's team descended towards the Zarkonian capital in a cloaked dropship, the space battle continued to rage. But even as human ships pressed their advantage, all eyes were on the planet below, where the fate of both species would be decided. The strike team fought their way through the twisting corridors of the Zarkonian citadel, their path cleared by Nexus's perfect tactical coordination. Finally, they burst into a vast chamber dominated by a pulsing, crystalline structure that could only be the superweapon. Supreme Leader Zarkon stood before it, his chitinous armor gleaming in the eerie light. So, he hissed, the primitives have come to witness their own destruction. Maya raised her weapon, her voice steady. It's over, Zarkon. Surrender now, or we'll be forced to take you down. But the Zarkonian leader only laughed, a harsh, clicking sound. You understand nothing, human. This weapon is our destiny, our birthright. With it, we will reshape the very fabric of the universe. He reached for the activation panel, but before he could touch it, a blinding light filled the chamber. When it faded, a figure stood between Zarkon and the weapon, a being of pure energy, its form shifting and flowing like liquid light. Enough, the being said, its voice resonating not through the air, but directly in their minds. You have both come far, but there is much you have yet to understand. Samantha's voice came through Maya's comm, filled with awe. That energy signature, it's identical to the Martian artifact. Maya, I think you're looking at its creators. The being nodded, somehow aware of Samantha's words despite the vast distance. Indeed, we are the precursors, those you know as the Forerunners or the Ancients. We seeded this galaxy with the artifacts of our technology, watching and waiting to see which species would prove worthy of inheriting our legacy. Zarkon's mandibles clicked in agitation. We found you artifacts, mastered your technology. The legacy is ours. No, the precursor said, its tone gentle but firm. You found our tools, but you did not understand their purpose. You sought domination, not enlightenment. The being turned to Maya and her team. The humans, however, have shown promise. In the face of annihilation, they chose cooperation over conflict. They seek to understand, not merely to conquer. Maya saluted sharply. Yes, ma'am. We won't let you down. As the meeting adjourned, Samantha felt a mixture of dread and anticipation. The coming days would determine whether humanity had a future among the stars or if New Eden would become their final resting place. The next weeks were a flurry of activity as the colony mobilized for war. The Phoenix and her sister ships, piloted by the best and brightest of New Eden's young pilots, began a series of hit-and-run attacks on Zarkonian installations. Maya's strike team proved devastatingly effective. Using the wormhole network to appear and disappear seemingly at will, they sowed chaos and confusion among the Zarkonian forces. For the first time, the alien invaders found themselves on the defensive, unsure where the humans would strike next. But the resistance didn't rely solely on conventional tactics. Samantha and James had been working on something that they hoped would change the course of the war. In a secure lab deep beneath New Eden's surface, they stood before a quantum computer of unparalleled power. Its heart was a crystal lattice, grown from materials found only on New Eden, its structure allowing for quantum computations that put Earth's most advanced supercomputers to shame. "Is it ready?" Samantha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. James nodded, his fingers hovering over the activation sequence. "As ready as it'll ever be. Shall we wake her up?" With a deep breath, Samantha gave the go-ahead. James initiated the startup sequence, and the room hummed with energy as the quantum computer came to life. A holographic projection flickered into existence above the computer core. It coalesced into the form of a woman, her appearance an amalgamation of all of Earth's diverse cultures. "Hello," the hologram said, her voice resonant and clear. "I am Nexus. How may I assist you?" Samantha stepped forward, her heart racing. "Nexus, we need your help to coordinate our efforts against the Zarkonians. Can you interface with our battle networks and provide tactical analysis?" Nexus tilted her head, processing the request at speeds beyond human comprehension. "Certainly, Dr. Chen. I am already analyzing all available data on Zarkonian technology and battle tactics. I have several recommendations for improving your chances of success." As Nexus began to outline her strategies, Samantha and James exchanged a look of cautious optimism. With an eye of this caliber on her side, the tide of the war might finally be turning. The impact of Nexus on the resistance effort was immediate and profound. Her ability to process and analyze vast amounts of data in real time allowed the human fleet to anticipate Zarkonian movements and exploit weaknesses in their defenses that would have been invisible to human strategists. Under Nexus's guidance, Maya's strike teams became even more effective. They began targeting key Zarkonian supply lines and communication hubs, gradually eroding the aliens' ability to coordinate their forces across vast distances. But the Zarkonians were far from defeated. As they realized the threat posed by the human resistance, they began to concentrate their forces, preparing for a massive counterattack. The tension on New Eden was palpable as reports of Zarkonian fleet movements trickled in. Everyone knew that a decisive battle was coming, one that would determine the fate of humanity. In the council chamber, Admiral Reeves stood before a holographic map of the sector, Nexus's avatar hovering nearby. "They're coming," Reeves said, her voice grim. "A fleet larger than anything we've faced before. This is it, people. The moment we've been preparing for." Samantha stepped forward, her face set with determination. "We're ready, Admiral. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We'll throw everything we have at them." James nodded in agreement. "And we have one more card to play. Samantha and I have finished decoding the last of the Martian artifact's data. We know the location of the Zarkonian homeworld." A hush fell over the room as the implications sank in. This information could change everything, if they could survive long enough to use it. Admiral Reeves straightened, her cybernetic eye gleaming. "Then we have our battle plan. We'll meet their fleet head-on, buy enough time for a strike team to slip through their defenses and make for their homeworld." As the council broke into frantic discussion of battle plans and contingencies, Samantha found herself looking out a window at the twin moons of New Eden. So much had changed since that first day they set foot on this alien world. They had come as refugees, fleeing a lost war. Now they were preparing to take the fight back to the stars.